Hi everyone, my name's Karma Hickman. I'm an associate solicitor in the immigration team at Bindmans. I'm here with the first edition of our new immigration podcast, Immigration Unpacked, where we'll be talking about all things immigration and citizenship related. So in this first edition of the podcast, I'm talking to my colleague, Tanya Goldfarb, who's our head of business immigration, about the government's plans in relation to indefinite leave to remain. So Tanya, first of all, just in basic terms, what is indefinite leave to remain, and when do people currently qualify for this status?
So indefinite leave to remain is a UK immigration visa status that enables a person to remain in the UK without restriction on their activities or the length of stay that they may undertake. There are no conditions on the type of work, setting up business, living or starting studies in the UK that a person is able to participate in. The status is also known as permanent residency or settlement, depending on which visa route that an individual is in that enables them to get that status. And it should be noted that not all visa categories in the UK are visa categories that lead to the ability to apply for indefinite leave to remain. For the purposes of today, we'll just call it indefinite leave to remain, but it means the same. The three different names for it mean the same ultimate status.
So that's indefinite leave to remain, permanent residence, and settlement.
Yes, indeed. Currently, most visa routes lead to indefinite leave to remain at the 5-year continuous residency points. There are some exceptions, like exceptional talent within the global talent visa route, but generally speaking, it's a 5-year residency requirement.
Yeah.
And I should mention it's a continuous residency requirement.
Okay, but the government said it wants to change things. It's going to make it harder for people to
Indeed.
get leave. We've seen these headlines. So what do we know about their plans? What have they said so far about these changes?
So thank you for asking. What we know is unfortunately not very much. The government is proposing to extend the qualifying period for many visa categories, although they haven't been specific about which ones. Yeah. Definitely skilled workers, from 5 years to 10 years. What that means in practice is that any individual who's going to be a sponsored worker will end up having to spend 10 continuous years in the UK. That has an impact on the length of sponsorship, so it's impactful for businesses and sponsors. It's also impactful for individuals who are in a particular career track, who've made their lives in the UK and who suddenly, if it moves from 5 years to 10 years, it's potentially going to pull the rug out from under some people. What we don't yet know, unfortunately, is whether there's going to be a transition phase. So for individuals who are currently in the UK in a visa route that leads to settlement, whether there's going to be a cutoff point. So at some point, anybody who's already in, you're under the 5-year rule. Anybody else, you're in under the 10-year rule. We do know that on the 29th of September, the current Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, made a statement in Parliament where they introduced formally this concept, because it was originally trailed in the white paper earlier in the year. And they announced that there's going to be a consultation, a public consultation by the end of the year. But there are unfortunately, no substantive details about what that consultation is going to look like, how long it's going to last, when it's going to open up, when it's going to close.
So we know that it's going to go from 5 years to 10 years. We know that by the end of the year, the government's going to start consulting. We don't know whether the changes will affect people who are already on a route. We don't know that yet. That's what you mean by the transitional provisions, is it?
That's what I mean by transitional provisions. But what we don't know is that definitively it will become 10 years. There has been some concerted pushback, not least of all from individuals who are currently in the UK who believe that they and rightly so, have a legitimate expectation that it should not be extended to 10 years, at least not for them. And there have been two petitions. There've been a petition from a skilled worker cohort, and then there's also been a petition from British national overseas citizens who could conceivably also be caught up in this 5 to 10 year switcheroo. There is also, I hope, and likely to be some pushback from sponsors and
by
businesses.
Sponsors, you mean employers, the people who sponsor skilled workers?
Yes, I do. I mean, an organization, a school, a business, a charity, a non-profit entity who has a sponsor license, which enables it to employ, by way of sponsorship, overseas nationals who don't have a visa that enables them to work for that employer in any other capacity.
Okay.
Because
so that could affect them as well, because they're now, instead of committing to keeping someone employed for 5 years, they're basically more or less signing up to say, yeah, I want you for the long haul. So that is going to affect them. And do we know?
There are also, sorry to interrupt you, there are also cost implications for employers and sponsors, because there are certain sponsorship costs that can never be passed on to an individual, and then there are some that may be passed on. And so there are economic drivers that are going to be impactful to businesses, whether it's a large multinational or it's a small independent business, like a small independent record company versus a big financial institution. The ramifications are going to be the same, but they'll just be impactful in different ways.
And in addition to the increase from 5 to 10 years, is the government introducing any other kinds of changes?
Yes, they are. They have trailed the concept of earned settlement. And what this means is they're effectively going to be requiring anybody who wants to apply to settle in the UK to have particular targets and tiers that they will meet. So points effectively will be awarded for being employed. They'll be awarded for having made national insurance contributions. So you earn money in the UK, you're paid a salary, you pay tax and national insurance. Never having claimed any social security funds or public funds, having absolutely no criminal record, having a high level of proficiency, and there's a proposal that they may make the level of English standard requirement higher. And then on a sort of a relatively loosey-goosey term of giving back to the community. And that is not yet defined. We don't know what that looks like. And truthfully, giving back to the community differs from person to person. It's very hard to advise people what that's going to look like, because we don't yet know what that's going to look like.
I mean, I don't even know how you kind of police that or regulate that.
No, absolutely.
You put some structures in place and make people, I don't know what you would do with it. So I don't know at all what that might be.
We have no concept, and we also have no concept of what value is going to be placed on one type of community service versus another type of community service, which leads a fear into it's going to be a tiered system. So if you earn a salary in excess of, say, £60,000 a year, are you going to be considered a better candidate for indefinite leave to remain than somebody who works in an industry or a sector where the salary thresholds just aren't that high? And also, are they going to take account of regional variations? Are they going to take account of the fact that women are paid less than men sometimes? So there are all sorts of factors which don't appear on the face of it to have been taken into account. But the devil will be in the detail. When we get the consultation, we'll have a better idea. There is just one other thing that I wanted to mention about the concept of earned settlement, which is that the government have also talked about having to assess the impact on existing and or local residents. So if too many people are going to get settlement in the UK, what's that going to look like for the community in which you live? I don't really understand what that
How do they
means.
assess that? And what do they, I mean, what does that mean? All right, well, we'll only give you indefinite leave if you move from Tooting, which is where I live, to, I don't know, somewhere with a much smaller
community.
I mean, that's
and
crazy.
that needs populating. Exactly. That's when I say the devil's in the detail.
Right.
It's a very frustrating time in terms of immigration law, because there are these big pronouncements, but then there isn't substance given to what we're then faced with when people are panicking. Oh my gosh, is this going to be me? What does this mean? We just don't know.
We know it's going up to 10 years. We know the English language requirement could increase. We know that that they'll be even tougher. I mean, you know, they say they're going to be tougher on the criminal records, but already, frankly, it's close to impossible to get indefinite leave with any kind of criminal record. And then what it looks like is maybe some kind of points-based trading. So you get allocated points if you've done X, Y, and Z, but if you haven't done X, Y, and Z, but you've done A and B, then there's some kind of potential trade-off. And some of that trade-off might involve giving back to the community, something like that. But it's all really blurry and nebulous. And so
indeed.
you have to wait and see.
But also, just to be clear, we don't know definitively that the residency requirement is going to go up.
We don't. Years. I thought that was kind of a definite 100% that was the government's flagship thing.
It is their government's flagship thing, but it still has to undergo this period of consultation. It will also quite probably have to be debated in Parliament, unless they run it through in a different way, like under a statutory instrument. So, as I say, it's really hard to advise because there is nothing yet set in stone.
Okay. So consultation will start at the end of the year. So there will presumably within that there will be more detail.
We hope so, yes.
And Tanya, like for people who are, you know, I mean, I for one have had people, you know, contacting me in a bit of a panic saying, what can I do? What are you telling people now? Is there anything they can do ahead of all these changes, or is it just they have to wait and see?
So I think it's twofold. I think if you are one is currently eligible to apply for indefinite leave to remain, then do so. Don't wait until it could be extended or is going to be extended to 10 years, not least of all because there are other pain point thresholds that may need to be met, like if there are sliding scales of salaries, then what does that look like for you if you haven't had time to volunteer in your community in a way that the government says is appropriate, like, or if you volunteer at a food bank, or you are involved in your local brownies pack, or you go into a library, is that going to be enough? We just don't know. I'm not saying run out and start doing those things unless you want to, but you may want to consider that when earned settlement comes into play, which I think will probably come into play whether it goes to 5 years or 10 years. I think that I have a real strong sense / suspicion that what's going to happen is earned settlement's going to come in anyway, whether it's 5 years or 10 years, because we want to make sure that the people that the government bestows this status on are going to be good eggs and are going to contribute to the UK. Not that they haven't already, and let's be very clear, the UK is only as strong as its constituent parts, and migrant individuals, whether they are students or skilled workers or partners of British citizens, contribute in hugely meaningful ways to the UK, both from a community perspective, financially, through diversity, through ideas, creativity, etc.
So what you're saying is if you can apply for indefinite leave to remain now, do so.
Do so. If you can afford to, because it's pretty expensive. But yes, my advice would be
only go up.
Yes,
that's another lesson. Your advice is apply now if you can. Don't hang around. you're pretty confident these proposals in some shape or form will come into effect. And am I right in saying we think that will be sometime next year, I'm guessing, because the government's trying to...
I think it depends how long the consultation period, so it depends on when it's going to be launched. We're already in the middle of October. But we only have a month and 2.5 months left of the rest of the year. A consultation should be at least 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's likely that this will be coming into effect in 2026. Of course, you know, I could be completely off base, and tomorrow the consultation will open.
Okay. But we think it's 2026, as far as we can tell.
As far as we can tell, we think it's 2026. But I'm caveating that with,
yeah, no,
of
course. I mean, we don't have a crystal ball. Other than that, you know, you're thinking maybe have an eye on, if that's something you're interested in, maybe have an eye or have a think about what you might be able to do to give back to the community. That's something that could potentially be built up. Yeah. But again, we really don't know.
But we really don't know. And also do what it feels meaningful for you, and do what you are capable and have the bandwidth for. Don't suddenly sort of decide to sit on the board of a trust if you don't really want to do that. Do what works for you.
Okay, all right. I think that's really helpful. So at the moment, wait and see. We'll see what the consultation says, and then you and I can maybe have another chat about all this once things pick up again. Okay, thank you, Tanya. That's really helpful.
You're most welcome.
Okay, well, that was Tanya Goldfarb, my lovely colleague, head of business immigration, talking to me about the government's proposals to extend the period of indefinite leave and introduce a concept of an earned route to settlement. When we've got more information about that, we'll have another chat. Thank you for watching.
Absolutely.
Thanks.